Hello. Okay. So we're going to look at the browser developer tools right now. Again, we're in Chrome. Um, and let's get this, let's get rid of some of the styling that we put in here from the last one. So let's get rid of that. And then let's get rid of this. Okay. So save that, and this page should look like this again. Okay. So let's look in the developer tools. You can do the long way, which is right click, inspect, or you can just do the shortcut, Control Shift I. So you see when we hover over, you should see the screen pop up on the right hand side. These are your developer tools. So there's various tabs in here, and we're going to focus on a couple right now. You can customize the size of this and what you see. Make that smaller. You can, I'll go ahead and get rid of that. Just give me some more room. You can customize it for what you want to see. So if you look on the right-hand side in this panel, you'll see if you hover over HTML, all of this is in HTML. Because remember that second line of the content of your HTML page was HTML. So everything below it is HTML up until the closing tag, which is on here. It's on line 26, the closing HTML. So we have HTML. Then we have our head. And remember, our head has an opening head tag and a closing head tag. This is comments, so it doesn't really direct into anything because it's not reflected in the browser. This meta char set, it doesn't really reflect anything in the browser. It's just kind of extra info. Keywords, the meta name, again, this is just extra. I think that's for like more SEO purposes. Title. Okay, the title is up here. So we see it in the browser webpage, Try and Succeed Sports. Then TSS layout, you can see, remember, the reason this looks like with that layout is because we have that link to that external style sheet. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and click that arrow to minimize that. Go to body, because the reason body highlights everything is because everything you see visually there is in the body. Everything from that top image, which for me was on line 62. Is that it? My bad. No, sorry. I'm sorry. It was on line 30 to everything else. It's all in the body tag. Beginning body. Shoot, that's not what I wanted to do. Beginning body tag. All the way to the ending body tag, which is right below or right above the ending HTML. So let's click on that arrow. So we hover over header. You'll see like the header section, which pretty much was just the image, is selected. It gives some information about it, like it looks like there it gives the height and the width, and image source, and the alt. Okay. Go to the nav. You can see it indicates the nav, the article, aside, and footer. Footer's down there. Hold on. Okay, so we saw, where was that? Sorry. Okay. So we hover over the footer, you can see the footer down there. Let's see if I can hide this. You see the footer down there. And we hover over the closing body, the entire body is selected. So let's open up the header. We already did that, didn't we? Let's open up the nav. Okay, you can see it breaks it down into nests. Like H1 has the links, and then you can see the ULs. You can expand that nest, or you can minimize it and just focus on the area that you're wanting to work with. Okay, so let's see what the book says to do. Okay. Oh, let's look at that little margin thing. So that's not what I wanted to do. I just messed myself up. Go back. Okay, let's look at the body. Let's look at article. Okay, so if we go to styles and we go to article, the if you're looking, if you're hovering over article, and in the top or in the bottom area, right in this particular, you can see the styles of the margin, the border, the padding, and whatnot. Let's see. Okay, that works, I think. Okay, I think that did it. Yeah. So, so I was having trouble accessing that without losing what the mouse was and showing you guys. So what I did was right click on the article area, inspect, and it takes me, I thought, oh, okay. Or you can just do it right here. You can go here to take you to the particular area you want to go to. Okay, so I wanted to go to article. And you can see when you hover over the squares right there, you can talk and you look at your margin, you can look at your border, which it doesn't have one, you can look at padding, which it doesn't have one, and the content, which is right there. So right now our margin is 26.135. We can actually edit it here without editing the code. So if we're wanting to use our developer tools to maybe make some visual changes to our web page without having to edit the code and refresh it and do all those re-uploads again if it's already live in a website somewhere, we can just we can just make the changes right here and see what we like and what we don't like. So right now the margin on the left hand side is 26.135. Say we want it to be 50. Okay, you can see how that effect is going to look. And do we like it? Do we not? Let's close this. And looks like it takes away our whatever was right there, comments. So that's probably not the ideal way that we want to go on this. So Control Shift I to open that back up. And I'll go back to the article. And I want to change that. We can see without actually having to rewrite the code what the effect is going to be. 26.135, which was what it was before. We can also, I don't know why that's like that. I just refresh the page and just go back to what it was. Okay, I did that way. We can also take some things off where you see where these little check marks are, like the width and the float and the margin. We can take that float off. And you can see what it would do if we remove the float in the actual code. Same way with the width, you can see what it would do if we removed it from the actual code. The color right now we have is black, which is our internal root color, which is the default. Let's see. Is there a way to change that in here? I'm not sure. Make this a little bigger. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay. You can edit the style as soon as I find it. That's not where I wanted to edit at. Oh. Color. So we want to add a color of, I don't know, this will do. I haven't tried it. Just want to be cred. Okay. That's Yeah, didn't mean to hit that. So we can see what it would look like red if we wanted to make a simple color with the font. We say element style. And the navigating and learning how to utilize this and what the tools and tricks you can use is just like anything else, it's just being exposed to it repeatedly and having an understanding of what it does. So we have the element.style, and it's in the article. If we go to P's for the paragraphs that is nested within the article, we can do similar changes there. We can do background, color, that's background, right? Let's do Alice blue. And you can see it's blue, like a light ice blue thing. Okay, that's because that's for that particular paragraph that I selected. And we can take that off. And none of this actually makes a change in the actual code. Only thing this is doing is changing it in the browser to see if you love it, if you hate it, and whether or not you want to maybe implement it in the actual code. Let's see what else this talks about. Okay, to define an important style. So we talk about the precedence of styling in regards to, it looks at the browser styles, which is, Chrome, Edge, Firefox. Then it looks at user defined. Then it looks at the external style sheets where we do that link href. Then it looks at the embedded or internal styling, which is in the style tags, which is in the head. And then it finally looks like inline style. But there's also another way that you can add some styling that to indicate whether it's really, really important. This is probably primarily used if you're using something like Bootstrap, I think is what it's called. I can't even think of it now. When you use some sort of templates that has a lot of predefined CSS styles into it, and we'll be looking at that, but they are really useful tools to some degree, but sometimes there's so much styling in there that if you want to make a minor change, it can be a little cumbersome to try to find what particular element you need to change. So if you just need to make some minor changes to make it important, making it important in this particular regard will tell the browser, hey, forget everything else, listen to me now. So let's go here. And this we would actually write in the code. You can do it in the web browser as well in the inspector tools, but I'm going to do it in the code. So H1 color orange important. Let's see. Trying to think of a good example here. Okay, we got our style sheet, and what's we have in styles? Okay. I'm just going to do something simple. It's not really a good example as to why you would want to use something. A better example as to why you would want to use this is in the talking about like Bootstrap and templates before, but I'm just going to show you how it works. So we say we want the background color to be black, color of the font to be yellow. Okay, so let's refresh our page. It should look like that then. Yep, everything that's a P tag is now background black and font of yellow. So we so that's what it looks like now. But hey, we really want this particular, how this book say it. Okay, let me get to my right screen here. Do we want this particular P in classes, under the classes, to be, so it says the important keywords most often used in user-defined style sheets in which the user needs to substitute his or her own styles in place of the designer's. For example, a visually impaired user might need to have a text displayed in a larger font with highly contrasting colors. So we could do this isn't the example I thought it was going to be, but it's going to work. Okay. So we need really contrasting colors for, say these are considered contrasting enough for someone who has a particular color, kind of color blindness or something, I don't know. We are telling to ignore, nope, that's not a good example either. Give me a sec, I'm gonna pause this and figure out a way to explain this in a halfway decent way. Find my pause button. There we go. Okay, I was going to try to do this, but it does the exact same thing whether you're using important or not. And I just don't have a good example on hand to show this. So what I did was I found this article. So this is another very useful tool when learning CSS at csstricks.com. So using, this is from 2011. Yeah, but it's updated 2017. So using the important, exclamation important in your CSS usually means you're narcissistic and selfish or lazy. So it's not recommended to use it a lot. It's like only if you need to make a quick fix. For those that don't know, an important rule looks like this. So you have your P tag color red with the important thing after it. Then you have the stain, which is an ID of a thing, and you have a color green, and that's in your CSS file. And then you have your P ID of the thing will be red. Okay. So this paragraph will be red, even though the ID selector has higher specificity. The important rule overrides the property. That's my to-do list for today. Down. Okay. New window. Notepad. Okay. So think of it like this. We had our order of specificity and precedence as browser settings. First is browser. Okay. Mozilla, Edge, etc. Then we have our user-defined, dark theme, etc. Whatever else there is. I've never really messed with it. We have three. We have external style sheets, which is indicated by the link href. I think the other one was style STSS style, something like that, .css. Relationship is style sheet. Yeah, 4 equals embedded internal located inside. Yeah, that's right. Head nested. You take that differently. Style, which is nested in the head. 5 was inline on the same line inside those little carets of the element, making a styling specificity on. Uh, and then there's important. Okay. So let's go back to here. So this paragraph will be read, even though the ID selector has higher specificity, the important role overrides that particular property. Stephanie, surely out of frustration, was talking about postscripting your CSS values with important can be highly abused and make for messy and hard to maintain CSS. The unfortunate typical use case goes like this. Why is my Fraggle rocking CSS not working? Iter, what thing? I don't know. Use the important rule. Okay, now it's working. So then they don't, sometimes what happens is after they use that important rule, they don't really dive in. Important rules are deemed to be a quick fix, if you're in a hurry, but it's not meant to be the everlasting fix all the time. So then the next guy comes along and tries to make some new changes. He tries to alter some existing CSS rules, which is there in the external sheet or the embedded sheet. But now his rule changes aren't behaving how they should because he might, I don't know, the important rule might be coming into play. He traces the issue back to the important rules, and then he has a choice. He can try to remove those and attempt to get things back on track, or add some more of his own to fight them and get his change done. Since he might not know exactly why those important rules were added in the first place, he might opt for the second option for fear of breaking something somewhere else on the site he's not aware of, and then the cycle starts. Some potentially good use utility classes. So when is the important rule actually useful and a good idea? In their opinion, utility classes are a good use case. So think of buttons. Let's say you have a class name of button on your site, and whatever element you put it on, you want that element to look like a button. Specific font, rounded corner, special background, and borders, whatever. So you do this. Okay, you create that. And then in the HTML, you create the tag, classes button, to do something. The specificity for that is 0010. As soon as that element has another selector affecting it, that has a higher specificity. You may have a styling issues like this. So you have an ID of content, you have the blah, blah, blah for text. Then you have the button to do something. But the content, which is right here, of A, which is right there, border bottom 1 pixel dotted blue. Now those buttons you have a specific design for have a dotted blue bottom border, which is not what you want. So here's a fit of that kind of scenario happening. We'll look at that here in just a second. I don't think this is the fault of sloppy CSS. It's easy and often perfectly valid to write a CSS selector that has a higher specificity using the value of 0010 that accidentally screws up a button. To make this the button class super robust and not easily trifled with, put important rules on the values, may even add in a few that your button doesn't need but could screw up. So any other utility class could benefit from this. Think of the popular ClearFix class. I'm not going to go into all that stuff. Okay, that's the end of that. So talking about user style sheets, I believe the original case and reason important rules exist is user style sheets. That is a custom style sheet written by you that you can tell a web browser to apply to every page visited. Since this styles apply to all websites, not specific websites, you'll need to write a fairly generic selectors that are most likely to apply. Get into that. Okay. So that's the case of the button. Don't use it a whole lot. And if nothing else works, and when you're trying to make a particular change to your CSS, then you can use it. Let's try this. I haven't tried this yet, so just bear with me. So do this completely just on the bottom of this page. Well, not the complete bottom. After the aside. So I'm below aside and above footer. So let's go ahead and copy the code they have here for the button. So here's the HTML. This is what we're going to put in our HTML page. href equals, where's my account sign? Oh. Okay, we'll go to our CSS page. I'm just going to go to the bottom. And button, background, red, color, white, padding, 3 pixels, border, radius, 5 pixels, border, 1 pixel, solid, black. Okay, let's see what our web page looks like. So, how's that? Is there a button? Okay, there's a button. Doesn't do anything because we don't have it indicating to do anything, but all right, does nothing. But there's a button. Okay, let's go back to what this said to do next. Got a button, made a button. Okay, so we're back in HTML. And we're going to give this a section an ID of content. So section ID equals content. Delete that closing section. Shoot. Make the P tag, text, blah. Get rid of that closing P tag. Put that closing P tag at the end of that last anchor tag, which was this, the A tag. Okay, so everything else looks the same. And close the section. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not done yet. Hold on. Okay, so the layout, or for the CSS, content, A, border, bottom, 1 pixel, dotted, blue. Okay, that hashtag is used for IDs, because you'll note that this is an ID. So hashtags are used to indicate an ID. And the A was the anchor, which was like right here. Okay, you have to really kind of zoom in. But you can see that dotted blue line on the bottom. That's what we don't want. We want it to be in all border black. Okay, we got the text, blah, blah. And, you know, you got the button to do a thing. But when we put this content in here, I'll take this out so I can show you. It's, you know, before we put that content for the CSS in there, there was an all black border. But once we put that CS in there for the content, you know, it's the blue dotted, which we don't want. So the reason you would use important in this example is they're telling it to ignore all the other crap. I think, wait a minute. I have to put it before the semicolon. Yes, before the semicolon, so my bad. And you'll notice the space that they have over and it's aligned. I would recommend that as well. Again, spacing doesn't really matter. Important when it comes to web pages is for your readability and anybody else who tries to read what you did or are doing to make it their life a little bit easier. But overall, it's not advisable to overuse important. Did I spell that right? Oh, I got that. See, my colin's still there. Okay. One case scenario where that Techstar startup that I was telling you about that I did last year. I used a Bootstrap to create a landing page for the team that I was on. And with Bootstrap, it has a lot of styling, like a lot of divs inside of a div inside of a div, which is really annoying and just frustrating to try to figure out when you want to make a change, like what div is what type of styling is creating that kind of styling that you're wanting to change, because when it's nested, it's really hard to find. So one of the suggestions that I got from one of the mentors was there. He was said that to use this important feature, just use it, fix it for now because we were on a time constraint, and then if you go with it, then you can make the proper edits. So, okay, so remember it has the blue dotted thing on the bottom. Hit refresh, okay, and it read that this is important, so ignore all the other crap. Just do this, okay. It's one of those things, like just for the example that you see right here, it's like, well, why did you even just do it? Why did you do it? Period. Why didn't you just not do this? So just think of it as an example of when something like this will come into play, which it will, especially if you start using templates. That's a tool there. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna take this out. And get rid of all of this. And refresh. Oh, do I still have something there? Save that. Refresh. Okay. And make that smaller. Okay. Let's see what else my tab has. Okay, we talk about important. Okay, I think this is where we left off in class. So I want to stop here for right now because my jaw's hurting.